Hello, we are live on my channel, Massachusetts Beer Reviews channel of YouTube. This is the Massachusetts Beer Reviews channel of YouTube. Again, I am Thomas Metal 75. Hopefully, we're going to be joined by another Eric, known as Eric, a Lions fan on YouTube from the state of Michigan. But today we have a fellow YouTube contributor to the community. Doesn't have his own channel yet, maybe one day. Michael Cormora from the great state of New York by way of Brooklyn. And today we are looking at the topic of barrel-aged beers. And within the topic, we are simply just choosing a beer, our own barrel-aged beer, and we will talk about the beer at hand, the style in general, anything else that comes to our mind. I will go and get the chat, and I will have the chat open live during this proceeding tonight. And how about you start and show the audience what beer you have brought this evening?
Okay, I have brought a beer from Six Point, which is a beer company that's also near me in Brooklyn, New York, called Four Beans. It's hopefully coming up on the screen. And this was a release beer that you had to order in advance on an app and pick up at the brewery a couple of weeks ago. This and the Five Beans were released together, and they were selling Three Beans at the same time. But the Three Beans you didn't have to order in advance. This is a beer that is aged in rye barrels, about 11.2% alcohol.
Excellent.
It's a porter.
Okay, so that sounds really delicious. I have probably one of the more classic examples in craft beer when you think of barrel-aged beers. And yes, the both of us, not that barrel-aged beers have to just be dark ales. They can be they really can be any style you want. But this one just happens to be a Bourbon County Stout. This is from the Goose Island. From the Goose Island Brewing Company, beer company, owned by Anheuser-Busch, or should I say owned by InBev. This is their 2014 variety. This is their Bourbon County brand coffee stout. This one is at 12.6% alcohol by volume. And it is coffee. It's stout aged in bourbon barrels with coffee added. Now, the coffee that was added to this one is, so apparently what they've done is that they brewed this beer, or they brewed around 200 barrels of this beer they aged with cold brew Rwandan coffee from Intelligentsia and cold water. And Intelligentsia is from Chicago, thus that's why they use Intelligentsia coffee. Now, every year, apparently, it's different coffee and different roasters that they use, but this is what they used in 2014.
So, Eric, are you opening your bottle?
Opened. I'm going to pour this into a glass I love to use, my, what do you call this, shipyard oversized snifter kind of glass.
I'm using my Bellhaven black glass.
Nice. I don't think I've even had that beer. That one sounds good.
I think it's Irish, if I'm not mistaken. It's English. Maybe it's English, not Irish.
I believe the answer is Scottish.
Scottish.
That's from the United Kingdom.
From the Isles, the British Isles.
And yeah, that's what I was afraid of when I poured it. I mean, afraid, right? I'm not afraid of beer. Yeah, usually our imperial style beers, stouts, porters, they just don't normally create much of a head.
This porter, what would you describe this? This is kind of like a one finger head that I have, a tan one finger.
Probably, yeah. I would say you're probably right about that.
Nice lacing. Do you want to go through your description first, or you want me to do?
Yeah, I can start. We have live watching the channel here this evening. Good evening to you, sir. We have 3 people watching. Kent Beer Reviews says, good evening, gentlemen. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. I tried some good beers with the cousins and the relatives.
Hello, Kent.
And yes, again, Bourbon County Coffee Stout from 2014. Black as night. I mean, if I look hard enough, I can kind of see a little ruby red tinge, but in the grand scheme of things, not existent. Arkansas Beer Review says, hey, hello.
Hello, Arkansas Beer Reviews.
No light going through this bad, Larry. Lots, I don't even know if you can see that. Lots and lots of legs sticking and clinging to the glass. Not any kind of head at all. The nose, and this has been maybe 10 minutes in the refrigerator, but it's been in my cellar at 55 to 60 degrees. And this one was bottled on, I forgot to mention, the 7th of November, 2014. Bottle 1143, or maybe that's the lot number. So yeah, the smell, for me, you're getting the bourbon notes. It's not an overly boozy smell to it. Getting lots of chocolate, lots of raisins, lots of figs, lots of dark fruit notes, lots of rich toffee, fudgy notes. Well, not toffee, lots of fudgy, dark baker's chocolate notes. Lots of sweetness. The barrel, it being bourbon, you can get in whiskeys, you can get vanilla, oak, and coconut notes to it, which is definitely what I'm getting. Not a huge note of the coffee. I mean, it does. Let me be honest. It does have a coffee presence for sure, but compared to the average, compared to just picking a imperial stout off the shelf and smelling that, it smells like coffee for sure, but nothing out of the ordinary, even though it was brewed with coffee. So, yeah, it smells really fudgy and rich and of the barrel. So I'm going to take a sip, and then maybe you can go through what's going on with your beer.
Okay. Take the first sip and let us know what you think.
Fine, I will do that now. Ooh, yeah. What did I say, 12.6? Second sip. Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. Right as you swallow it, I don't say that negatively, but right as you swallow it is certainly when you get the alcohol's warmth and presence known. There actually is a pretty good carbonation zing to this, even a little over 4 years old here, or should I say 3 years old now. It starts out thin briefly, and then it picks up to full body. You're definitely getting, like I said, those chocolatey, dark chocolate, fudgy kind of notes to it for me. There's definitely those oaky, bourbon sort of tannic notes and qualities to it. It's viscous. I am getting more of the cold brew coffee in the taste. There is vanilla notes to it, very light vanilla notes. There definitely is those coconut notes that I was describing to it. I would have to say, because of what this is, if you couldn't even guess, folks, that this is, we got Jean-Pierre joining us live. Hello, sir.
Hey, Jean.
Hey, what's going on? How y'all doing? Let me get me some headphones. Looks like my beloved's headphones are completely destroyed right now, so stand by.
Yay. So,
right,
yeah,
man.
The other note, I'm going to mute John here for a second. The other note that I'm getting was the coconut note. It's definitely on the, I would actually say it's on the light side of full body, but that's exactly what it is. It's a very wet finish. It is got some sugary sweetness to it. Is it clean? No, it's got a wet finish. Is it crisp? Yeah, it's pretty crisp. And yeah, this is not refreshing, but not designed to be. And it's designed to be had in a nice glass that you can just sit down, relax, and sip the beer with. So that's exactly, excuse me, a lot of carbonation. So that's exactly what I'm going to do with the beer. As I'm going to sip on this, I'm going to enjoy the conversation here, and then I'm going to, when we're ready, I will give you my final thoughts.
Okay, I'll step in and give you a little quick thing. I'll show the beer again first. This was, as I said, a 6-point release through limited release. I don't know, they had a couple of hundred cases that they sold of this. The 5 bean, the 3 bean was sold separately. It was more limited release, but it now is one of their regular seasonal beers. So that is available to wherever you can get other 6-point beers, because I saw it today at my food co-op, so it is available. Okay. This one is rye barrel aged, and these original porters, when they were released as just non-barrel aged editions, were 10%. The rye one, after it was put in the rye barrel, ended up at 11.2%. And if you'll notice, the head is I don't know, it's still there, but it's maybe a little bit shorter than it was before and going down. Nice lacing on the side. And it's also, as you described, I'd say this is more of a dark brown than a black.
Sure.
You can actually see maybe some red in it.
Yep.
But it's mostly dark, and it's see-through. Let me check the nose out. You get kind of, and I really can't say it's rye whiskey, but you get a general whiskey vibe with some chocolate and coffee in your initial nose.
Sure.
And that's basically what I'm getting. Those are the main things I'm getting. It's more like a porter in that it's not, even to the eye, it's not as thick as a stout.
Right.
It's a little bit less thick, and but it's, it's a solid.
Thinner mouthfeel for you.
The way it looks, anyway.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna give it a taste.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
I'll take it to it. Why not?
You get that very heavy barrel-aged taste in the first taste you get, and it envelopes your mouth. It's really nice. Again, I can't differentiate the type of whiskey. I mean, I can't say it's rye. I can't say it tastes like bourbon. It just tastes like a general whiskey category.
Yeah, sure.
But it's nice. It's nice, and it's solid, and the mouthfeel is medium.
What did you say that I don't know if you mentioned it, but what did you say that you paid for that particular beer?
I think these were $20 a 6-pack.
It doesn't seem so bad for what you're getting at all.
And they're 12-ounce cans, these tall cans.
That's probably not so bad for what it is, yeah.
And again, I bought more of the 4 than I did of the 5, sure. And I only bought 1 4-pack of the 3. But this was my favorite of the 3.
Okay, I was going to say you had a preference on that. Yep.
If I have to make a comment about 6-point...
I'm here, honey. I'm doing a review. What's up?
If I have to make a comment about...
What?
This 6-point, all 3 of them, I would say that for my liking, they're a little bit on the thin side. Because I'm looking at medium mouthfeel, but I would like them to be a little bit thicker in the mouthfeel. Now, what some people would say, maybe you could expect that from a stout, and you can't from a porter, but I guess I like a little bit more of a porter that's more substantial.
Yeah.
But that may be just me.
Now, I was thinking about this when I was drinking my beer just now about the mouthfeel. You said your beer is how many percentage points? Or
11.2.
And are you getting any of this big, any boozy alcoholic presence to it, and how intense is that?
I think they did a really good job of masking the alcohol, because to me, if I was rating what this is, it tastes like about an 8%er. So it's definitely covered up well. It's generally, you could say there's some booze in it, but it's not in your face.
Not the star of the show.
No, but it's there because you get, like I say, you get that whiskey taste.
Yeah. I feel like in some of these barrel-aged beers and imperial stouts, like they can, I don't want to differentiate. I don't want to put my personal preference whether I think a beer is well made or not. But just in general, the style of barrel aging beers, if they're higher in alcohol percentage, they're high up there in the ABV, can sometimes have a boozy quality that can be desirable, but sometimes it cannot be desirable. In the particular beer that I have here, that Bourbon County Coffee brand stout from 2014 with the Rwandan cold brew coffee.
What's the ABV on that, Eric?
12.6
Okay.
from the good man. I was thinking about the alcohol presence to it, and there's a noticeable alcohol presence. No mistaking it. It does not, the taste.
The perfect Christmas Eve beer.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there definitely is 12%. There's definitely no lying about it. It's not the biggest, booziest beer, but there's definitely, like I said earlier in the review when I started, right around here in this region, when you swallow the beer, you can get the warmth of the beer. There's something like Michael Kormaroff was talking about in his beer, in the mouthfeel. Yes. Yeah. Where it sort of envelops the entire mouthfeel. You know what? I don't know if I had some hot, temperature-wise, hot food at dinner. Maybe I burned the tongue a little bit. But I'm almost getting a tongue prickly kind of a sensation from it. I don't know if that's the alcohol percentage or, again, could have burned my mouth on some pasta this evening at dinner. But it definitely has, besides that and the warming to it, it definitely has this, a little bit of sticky sweetness to it. And it definitely has this quality to it where it sort of envelops the mouth with this almost syrupy-like consistency. It's not thick, but it has a little bit of that consistency about it, which I guess in certain aspects that's really a nice quality for a good sipping beer.
Does the coffee taste linger?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good thing to bring up. I definitely think, I don't know if it's the coffee. I kind of have to assume that it is now that you mentioned that, but I actually noticed in a lot of higher ABV beers or some stouts or something that has coffee in it that there is its own unique kind of a bitter sour quality going on towards the finish of the beer that I'm definitely noticing in this one. So those are the qualities that I'm getting. Maybe that is from the coffee, but I'm getting a mix between it. It's bitter and then has a little bit of a souring note before it finishes. Now, what are you drinking this evening with us, Jean?
I am drinking the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale. Yes, the name of the company, brewed and bottled by the Alltech Lexington Brewing Company, Lexington, Kentucky. And since you were doing barrel aged beers, I said, all right. And this is what I saw. And I saw the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Stout. And I said, all right, let me try the ale. The ale was 8.2%. The stout was 8%. So I figured, okay, so a little stronger. So
give us the rundown of that beer.
First time having this beer. I've heard a lot more about the Bourbon Barrel Stout than this one. But it does have a little booziness to it at 8.2%. It could be a little sweet finish going down. This does have a little hint of some bourbon in, obviously, being stored in that barrel, but it's going on real smooth. I froze it, kept it in the freezer for about maybe a good 10 minutes or so. Took it out, left it in the refrigerator. It's going on nice and crisp, nice chill. Obviously, with these strong, higher ABV, beers, you want to keep it cold, super cold. You don't want it, outside of stouts or maybe a porter.
Mm-hmm.
Beers like this, like an ale or maybe a lager, you want to keep it ice cold. You don't want it, very lukewarm at a 50-degree temperature. Then you really get, need I say more? But going on smooth, really nice, refreshing drink.
I like
Say that again, Michael.
I like the color of it.
Yeah, it's a nice little, kind of looks like a lager. Maybe looks like maybe an apple cider type of look to
like
it.
An amber ale almost.
Exactly. And I say, what can I say? Again, I'm really feeling the effects of it right now.
Woo.
Taking a couple of sips of this.
Yeah,
8.2%.
They say on the website, I'm on KentuckyAle.com. They say for your beer, they've won numerous awards. Too many to name. So good for that beer. 8.2%, 19 IBUs. You're getting a Fuggles and an East Kent Golding, so they're doing a English-style hopping to this beer. The malts are 2-row, caramel 40, which would I have to imagine is the color you're getting from that beer.
I'm tasting some of the caramel flavors in this, yes.
There's aromatic malt, carapils, and malted wheat. And you should be getting oak, vanilla, caramel, and toffee. So continue, good sir. How's that?
Said more caramel than toffee in this beer. So over from what I've sipped in this. Like I said, this is good. And again, just like with your beer that you've had, gentlemen, this is a good Christmas Eve, holiday beer to have. Late in the evening, you got music being played in the background, or maybe watching some Christmas special on TV. This is a good beer to have.
Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon.
No, Die Hard.
Hell yeah. Yippee-ki-yay, mother. Whoa, no.
Yeah.
So as we drink these beers, we've noticed from time to time, while being a part of this crazy beer community, whether it's with Jay Theriault doing the Louisiana beer reviews, or it's with Rod J's on the Rod J Beer Ventures when he used to host some beer reviews, or just us in our own personal beer lives, or whether it's on YouTube or outside of YouTube, just tasting all these beers, being involved in the community, and knowing sort of what's going on in the beer world and what's popular and what's not. It seems like, especially with me and where I live in New England, like IPAs and New England IPAs and juicy beers are all the rage. But it didn't seem like too long ago, and I don't know if it still would be considered a fad at the moment, but it seems like barrel-aged beers are always sort of the in the rage, in the hip kind of a cool kind of a beer to have. And I don't know if there's any particular reasoning behind that, but why do you think that people really like these barrel-aged beers, and why do you think they like to gravitate towards something like that?
I think it has to do with people who like the feel of the alcohol together. In other words, the hard alcohol feel together with the beer, the way it's put in a bourbon or a rye barrel or whatever, but it attains a quality in beer that's different than when you drink straight alcohol. And it's a nice combination. And like Jean said, it's perfect for the holidays. It seems to fit in with sitting around the fire, or being, when the weather outside is cold. I mean, with John it's probably warmer, but it's still, you do get some winter days.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're like having snacks, it's Christmas Eve, you're eating hors d'oeuvres and things like that. You want something something to warm you up, and this would be good, particularly if you live in the Northeast. And by the way, I am heading home for Christmas, which I'm kind of excited about. So, up to Jersey.
New Jersey originally, right? In my area.
Yeah. Montclair, New Jersey, where I'm from originally, and lived in East Orange and Orange, New Jersey, and back to Montclair. So yeah, I'm very familiar with the Northeast. So I'm flying into LaGuardia. I know my parents are not happy about that, but I said, oh well, deal with it, because it's cheaper than flying into JFK or Newark. So, but anyway, I like cheap. This would be perfect to have. Like I said, Chris, a real cold night, perfect to have, just living on some snacks, something with, this would probably be good with some cheese snacks, like some hors d'oeuvres, some pigs in a blanket or something, just something you're just throwing in, just enjoying, this would be a good beer to have.
And
what do you think your coffee stout would pair well with food-wise?
That's a great effing question. The way that it tastes for me, let me look back live with you guys. Okay, here we go.
Take another sip. Give it your because food pairings are important with beer.
Well, I'm not even going to say food, first of all. I'm going to say that this would go, the first thing that comes to my mind would be that this could go fantastically with a nice fuller bodied cigar or a nice English style pipe tobacco blend. I think that'll go really well next to a campfire with this beer and in the late fall.
Vanilla ice cream, maybe.
I think it would go for food wise. I think you got to watch out with these barrel aged beers, and I think you got to watch out with imperial stouts or any kind of a higher percentage by volume with the alcohol beers, so that the beers aren't so big and rich and bold in flavors that they overshadow and mask what you're eating. So for me, the way that these fudgy, sweet, vanilla, and coconutty flavors really scream to me maybe like a chocolate cake or something dessert-wise, or
chocolate torte,
chocolate torte. Maybe not maybe creme brulee, maybe chocolate, something. You could have those, what are they called? What are they? Those little Ghirardelli dark chocolate, 60% cocoa.
This is more of a dessert beer, would you say, than a beer to pair with, like, say, pot roast or maybe beef stroganoff or something like that?
Yeah, I feel exactly that. I feel like this beer is going to be way too heavy and way too boozy in its flavor and its nature, that it would just overshadow and overmask a lot of different foods. I wouldn't go into a beer dinner every Thanksgiving and Christmas. My cousins and I, and then some people that want to join here and there throughout the day, we'll do beer tastings and try to pair them with certain points of the day. I would never put this. I mean, you could have it with a dark roast. You could have it with a steak or a good prime rib, I guess. But I think it's just too heavy of a style and a flavor that it would overmask the flavor of a really good piece of steak or beef.
I think my porter is in the same group as yours. You'd want this to go more with some kind of rich dessert, and it would be a good counterpoint.
If the ABV was lower, then yes, you compare it with those things: the steak, a pot roast, a Chateaubriand, whatever like that. That would, if it was lower in ABV, yes, maybe the Guinness Foreign Extra Stout, which is kind of in the middle, right there. You could go either with a dessert or maybe go with a meal. But if the ABV was lower, yes, I would agree that would go well with it. But most of those higher ABV stouts or coffee stouts definitely have to pair with a dessert.
They're very good as well if you just have them. If you're done with the meal and you're done with your dessert and you're just sitting around watching football, you're sitting around by the fireplace or whatever it is, or you're watching a movie, or you're playing games with the relatives, or whatever you're doing, you're relaxing after you've had the meal and the dessert. This kind of a style of beer, a barley wine, maybe like the one that you have, Jean. Maybe
it kind of has that taste of a barley wine. You're right, Eric.
Yeah, maybe even some higher ABV or darker kind of Belgian ales would be really nice just as a sipping beer all by itself, just as a digestive at the end of the day. Like you've had all the food, you've had all the food, you've tasted everybody's creations, and now all you want to do is just sit back with one more good beer and just, finish out the night. And this is no better way, unless you're driving, there's no better way to finish out the night than with a nice, good beer that you can just sit back with and sip. And I was thinking about this since Michael Komaroff and I have stouts, and you're a little different with that version of an ale. I'm not exactly sure what they would call that, American Strong Ale, maybe, but that could be almost anything. This is American Strong Ale because it's from America, but I'm thinking about the beer and its flavors. I don't really notice that this Bourbon County Stout here has a really big, rich, like a roasty quality. Do you notice that your beer, also being more of a coffee type of a stout, or porter, do you notice that it has any kind of a roastiness about it?
No, as a matter of fact, I would say it has a lack of a roastiness. It's more the whiskey thing dominates more, but it is very well balanced with the chocolate and with some coffee, but not very roasty coffee.
Yeah,
more that's what I was general coffee.
That's what I was thinking when I was drinking this, is that it's definitely more about the barrel influence, although it's not extremely, extremely woody taste, and you can tell that it was brewed in a barrel, and you can tell that there's some coffee that's been introduced into it. But for me, it's more about how the alcohol plays overall in the mouthfeel of the beer. And for me, it's got a sweetness to it that I don't want to say is a predominant flavor, but you can't help to mistake the fact that it has some amount of sweetness to the beer. That could just be very well due to the fact that it's this high in ABV. There's going to be some natural amount of fermentable sugars that are utilized within this beer to put it at that particular percentage point, which is 12.6. But what's your thought? I've had yours before, John. I think I kind of know the answer, but what's your thought? Is your beer have any roastiness whatsoever?
Very little that I've tasted. I didn't have any of that, but like I said, it's just that it has that very, very firm, obviously being barrel aged, obviously, but also a lot of malts, very little hops in this, obviously. But it has some of those sweetness to flavors to it. It's almost like you're drinking like a type of wine or type of, maybe I wouldn't say wine spritzer or whatever, but it has that thing. But the ABV is a little higher on it for a beer style. Most of these wine spritzers or whatever you drink tend to be lower in ABV. This is a little bit higher. So that's maybe the upside of this. But overall, very little roastiness to this whatsoever. So,
yeah,
Eric, I'm getting the sweetness in mine as well, but it doesn't rise to the level of cloying, because some people would say in some of these beers, if they're too sweet and cloying, it would knock them down in how you rate them. This one's not cloying. Mine isn't.
Sure. Yeah, I would, like I did say about this Bourbon County brand coffee stout, there's definitely an underlining sweetness that I don't want to say is the star of the show, but it's unmistakable that a lot of these kind of beers and a lot of these imperial stouts are going to have somewhat of a sweet, almost sugary kind of a component to it. Now, I don't think that every style, not every style of beer is going to match really well with the barrel aging process, regardless of if the beer already or if the barrel already had a bourbon or a whiskey in it, or if it had a sherry in it, or a port wine in it. It was a wine barrel. It was a new barrel. I just don't think that a lot of beers have either they have enough of a complex flavor about them to begin with, where they will complement the flavors of the barrel really well, or that some of the beers even have flavors that would be enhanced by having a barrel aging influence to it. And now live.
Hello, Eric.
We have
What's
Eric.
going on, gentlemen?
Eric B, what's going on, man?
Not much. What's going on, brother?
Good.
We are live reviewing barrel aged beers, and I hear you have a really popular one out of your state of Michigan.
I do, but I did not buy it because I was with my parents eating dinner.
Well, all righty then. That beer would have been Dragon's Milk Stout.
It's true, Michael. It's true.
I got 2014 coffee brand stout from Bourbon County. Jean has, what do you have, Jean?
I have the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale.
And once again, what do you have there?
I have
Michael
Four
Palmer?
Beans from 6 Point in Brooklyn.
What are your thoughts, opinions, and overall? What are your thoughts and opinions overall about barrel-aged beers? Do you like them? Do you not like them? What's your thoughts there, Eric, a Lions fan?
I mean, they're okay. They can be very good, but then they can kind of take away from a little bit of the base beer, in my opinion. Generally, they're usually pretty good, but you gotta like bourbon, like a bourbon whiskey, to really appreciate the bourbon notes from a stout or from a porter, or I've seen even done in amber ales too. They're few and far between, but I've seen them. But you got to really appreciate the bourbon aspect of, or the taste and all that sort of stuff that come along with that. It doesn't matter what kind of beer you're drinking. So really, it can enhance the flavor, but then it sometimes and with some beers, it can take away from it as well.
Sure. Anybody else got a thought on that? Anything that Eric Lyons fan just said? Does anybody agree with Eric Lyons fan where it can take away the barrel aging process can almost take away from the base beer itself? Because I can understand why someone would say that.
I understand it, but I'm somebody who likes the whiskey aspect, so maybe it doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah,
so I do like the combination in it. Now, maybe if somebody didn't like that, it would change.
Yeah.
Have you had a beer to where it took away from it instead of enhanced
Nothing I can specifically think of, but I'll watch for that now.
Well, one of the things that I notice, and unless I'm cutting John off, I apologize. But one of the things that I notice, especially maybe being a little bit younger, but I just noticed, and I even did a little bit of searching around on the internet the other day, because I was kind of curious, even why I seem to be a part of the fad, where I'm wondering why a lot of people like IPAs. Why are IPAs so popular? Why do everybody want to drink these heady toppers like I do? Why do people want to drink these juicy hop bombs? And why do people all of a sudden, are going goo goo gaga over these really hard to find 4-packs of hoppy beers? And one of the things I was finding when I was researching that the other day on the internet was one thing that we can determine within the science of taste buds, which could be why maybe people do like barrel-aged beers as well, is we find that over time that our taste buds do develop and they do change, and we do have a liking for more bitter qualities of in beer and more bitter qualities of foods. And maybe one of the things that we're finding is that over time our palates are changing, where we kind of like more intense or complex beers. I mean, not that we would want them all the time, don't get me wrong, but we're finding that we have more of a taste and a palate for these beers. And it certainly is obvious in my beer drinking here that barrel-aged beers, Bourbon County Stout in general, even the IPAs like I was talking about, going into Belgian-style beers, they were just 3 of the hardest kind of beers to really get into at first when I started drinking beers. I just thought it was too heavy, too complex, too many things going on that just didn't really sit well in my palate. But over the years, I've come to have a liking towards these styles. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add to that or any comments on that.
I'm going to chime in here, Eric. I think over the last, probably 10 years or so, the craft beer market has really brought people to. There's different styles of beer other than the American Adjunct lagers, like the Bud Miller Coors style. There's just much more in the IPA. There's just another division or aspect or whatever kind of adjective or noun you kind of want to put to that. There's this bitter style that people like, and along with the hops, that you get the citrus and you get the floral and you get the earthiness from it, where all these other beers, the stouts and the amber ales and reds and whatever, porters, you don't necessarily get with those. So right. I can see where people could like that style. Maybe not necessarily the bitterness, but there's people obviously that like a very bitter beer.
Sure.
But I think they also like like you said, the grapefruitiness, the mellowness, the floral aspects, and the earthy tones that a hop can bring out in a beer.
Yep. Exactly. Jean is gone. Do you have anything to add to that, Michael Kormaroff?
I was going to say that I tried the Four Beans in its original state before the barrel-aged variety.
Yeah.
And I liked that as well, but it was different. There, the main component that made it interesting was the beans and the porter. Here, it's the rye barreling that's made it more interesting to me. Now, again, like Eric says, if you don't like a barrel-aged quality, then you should stay away from this because you're not going to like it. Yeah. You have to like the taste of whiskey to like the barrel-aged.
I definitely find that it's not an easy, like I was saying, in the way that science works, and that we know that our taste, we even know that in our own beer drinking journey and experience, that our taste buds change over time. I used to hate these kind of beers, and I used to hate actually steak when I was a little kid. Now that's my favorite stuff in the world. But what I'm trying to say here is that I don't think somebody that's first getting into beers or first, well, not first getting into beers, first trying to get into craft beers, you know, maybe they would like this style of beer. I'm not going to say that you don't, but chances are that you probably wouldn't like this style of beer initially, and I probably wouldn't even recommend barrel-aged, high ABV beers to novices of craft beer. I think that would just – I think the price you might spend on a beer like this and the enjoyment that a younger person getting into craft beer or a person getting into craft beer for the first time, unless maybe they're more of a spirit drinker in general, they might not appreciate this stuff as much, and you might as well not ruin their beer drinking I don't want to say career, but you might as well not ruin them down the road by thinking, oh, you ruined me drinking these beers. I never want to touch them ever again.
And maybe there's a correlation with IPAs with the extreme bitter ones, because at the beginning, a lot of people found those to be too bitter. And then over time, you like the bitterness a little bit more, and you get more used to it. And the barrel age quality would be kind of like a similar aspect.
Yeah.
If you have anybody trying to start small drinking, you want to start them small drinking craft beers. You don't want to kind of put them up in 8.2% level. You know, maybe somewhere around 5 or 6%, where those beer drinkers, all they ever had in their lives are beers between 3.7 up to maybe 4. Maybe up to 5%. You know, you want to keep them small. You know, don't introduce them to something heavy.
Yeah, this would not.
Slowly, gradually, that level up the way, so they can, throwing them at 8.2%. Wow, 8.2%. That's what I'm going to be drinking now. There's a problem right there.
Yeah, these aren't beers, obviously, that you would drink every day. They're not those kind of for stout. Obviously, more of a Guinness. It would be a better way to go. Although that's even. Excuse me, a lot of carbonation this one.
Or Sam Adams cream stout.
Yeah, I would say exactly. I would say that these are good every once in a while beers. They would get way too taxing, and you would get way too drunk on a frequent basis.
Yes.
Which is a no-no. I was going to say something else in that thought. Yeah. Talking about really good beers. Not that, we wouldn't be able to give you that information on a regular basis. But I think most of us would probably rather recommend that maybe more of like a German wheat beer or a German lager, or maybe some more.
Or Hafenbrau.
Hafenbrau, maybe more. Maybe more of like an all malt lager, maybe I almost say Bourbon County Stout, more of a Boston lager. Or not Yingling, but I don't know, something that's not too alcoholic, but it's got a little bit more flavor. But I also do think when it comes to trying to choose, I know this is a little off topic, trying to choose beers for starting craft beer drinkers, but I really do think this day and age, even with these barrel aged beers and hoppy beer craze that seems to be going on for the last several years, price does have to be a consideration. I think that sometimes, and I even do it from time to time, going into the beer store, you might find a beer that looks interesting. You might see the label, and it will show you all about its barrel aging components, and it will look really, really, really great to you at first. But sometimes you don't want to spend that much money on beer. It's just, you got other things you got to spend. You need to spend your money on than just buying one bottle of $7 beer. It can be costly.
My beer was $3.99 for a 12-ounce bottle. 11.5-ounce bottle, whatever you want to call it. Oh, this has 355 milliliters, I guess, for this Kentucky Barrel. $3.99.
Backwoods.
Hopefully, this will be the first time and last time I'll do an examination of this. If I ever do it, hopefully I'll find it somewhere dirt cheap, someplace else.
Backwoods Billy Craft Beer Reviews. Hello, sir. Says barrel-aged beers are for sipping. I say that.
I agree with that.
Yes, yeah. I agree with that too. Although there's some where you're like, damn, this is good, and you just kind of want to just.
You can't help yourself, right? Sometimes. Yeah. Leinenkugel's, he also says Leinenkugel's Bavarian Dunkel or their vanilla porter. He says that they're a good base stout. They're good starting points.
They're a little on the light side.
Yeah.
That's probably a good statement, but they're a little on the light side for me.
Eric, as an aside, are you aware, Eric in Michigan,
Yes.
that Founders is about to open up something in Detroit?
Yes, they're just about ready to open their tap room.
And it's supposed to be big.
Yeah. Supposed to be as big as the one in Grand Rapids.
I'm saying, so that shows you they know the market's big there.
I wish they would open one in Lansing, damn it.
Wow.
Maybe in the future they will.
They might.
How's the craft beer scene treating you in Mobile, Alabama?
Hey, man, it's treating me pretty good. I mean, we got some good beers coming throughout the state. You know, as I mentioned, some of my other videos or things I've mentioned, you know, whether it be from Good People, from Back 40, from Fairhope, from what's the other one? From Band of Brothers. Let's see. You got Soretta. You have let me see, another couple other breweries. We got several breweries here in the state. You got the folks that make the Singing River Brewery. You know, they're pretty good. They're on the border between Alabama and Tennessee. Their base is in Alabama, but so there is some good beers, you know, in this state. You know, I'm not gonna match it to Massachusetts or Michigan or places like that. I'm sure they're 10 times better than us, but we hold our own. Let's put it that way. Also another one, Avondale. I forgot that one too. So let's go.
Excellent. So yeah, I guess we can go down the line. How's the craft beer? We know you get the 6 Point all day long, every day in Brooklyn, but how's the craft beer scene in your neck of the woods in Brooklyn?
It's wonderful. It seems to be a really ongoing thing lately for a lot of
Brooklyn Brewery.
smaller breweries setting up, one called Other Half, which has really made
Heard of that?
inroads. The problem with it is you have to wait on these huge lines like you do in Massachusetts at Trillium and Treehouse to get some of their releases. They're, different releases, not their general beer when they release specific things. Other Half is that way. But if you want to get it, you wait online to get it. I mean,
we have Backwoods Billy chiming in once again. Hello again, sir. He says Guinness is opening up a brewery in Indianapolis, Maryland, about 3 to 4 hours drive. We are on the Marva Eastern Shore. Dogfish Head Brewing, Third Wave, Revolution Brewing, and Evolution Craft Brew. Tall Tales, Burley Oak, Back Shore. So yeah, apparently, like with many things beer related, beer just in general is still a very big and prominent thing in the local communities and within the United States. It's always been the question if craft beer is ever gonna be a thing that's eventually gonna die off, but I just don't see it at the immediate moment in time. I can't see how, and more importantly, why it would. But
I think the future, Eric, right now, both Erics and John, the future for craft beer is limitless, and it doesn't mean things can't settle out a little. They may, but right now it's looking really bright, and you're seeing the styles spreading out too, which is good. I was going to mention, and we haven't yet, sour beer, which seems to be something which either you like or you don't like. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of sour beers being brewed in the United States now.
Yeah, for some reason, I can every now and then. I have no clue. Like I said, for some reason, I have no clue why. I can just all of a sudden, I want a sour beer. I don't know why. I think kind of like with IPAs and maybe like with these imperial stouts. Part of it is the mouthfeel that plays into the beer. It's not only that. I mean, mostly sour beers are a lower alcohol percentage, which are good, but I think with any beer, a lot of the time the mouthfeel has a lot to do with the beer drinking experience, and definitely in a sour beer, that's the experience. But I wanted to go back. That's a great point to bring up. Good thing you did, Michael. But I wanted to bring up the point or the question of. I know we're getting a little bit off topic. I should probably write an agenda one of these days for one of these beer reviews. But as we were talking about beer, craft beer is a huge thing, and we probably collectively as a panel here don't see it going away anytime soon. Is there anything about the craft beer scene that is going on, or that has been going on, that maybe you're not so fond of, that you wish kind of would cease to exist?
Nothing really stands out to me. I mean, the local ones around here, around Michigan. Now, I'm right in the central lower Michigan part, right in between. If you guys are anywhere familiar with Michigan, in between Lansing, Battle Creek, which they call Cereal City, USA, and Jackson, which is one of the birthplaces of the Republican Party, or supposedly, right in that little triangle area. Right around here, it's pretty much low key, very relaxed environment. Not a lot of, if you go to like a normal bar scene, it's kind of a little edgy a little bit. These places are very, calm. The atmosphere is very, I guess I would kind of say soothing, I would put it. Maybe that's the wrong term, but I don't really see anything that's really wrong with the craft beer movement or any tap rooms at that matter that turns me off to anything.
Sure.
I don't know if Michael or John have anything to add, but I don't see anything wrong.
We got Backwoods Billy still. Thank you very much for joining us live on the chat and watching live. He says a couple of different things here. His on what maybe annoys you about the craft beer scene that you wish kind of would cease to exist. A couple of things that he's saying here is price is an issue with craft beer, and it certainly can be an issue, that the price of craft beer. And he says also limited release beers, the quote, once and done beers. It's only going to brew it for a limited time and then it's done, and you're never going to see it ever again. Those kind of things. And he says if you go out to dinner, $5 to $10 a glass of craft beer, more expensive than mixed drinks.
Yeah, but you're likely not going to pound back 2 or 3 craft beers either. You're likely going to have one, and you're going to step on it for a lot longer than you would a Budweiser, a Miller, a Pabst, or anything.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
What would you what would you say there? John Pierre, TV Rambler.
Well, I kind of agree with some of y'all, but like I said, we're not young anymore. Let's put it that way. We could pound a lot if we need to if we were a younger age. But
if we were Eric's age, we could pound it.
Not
so if we're a little older now, so we can't pound as many. So we have to behave ourselves, a little bit this, a little bit that, because we know we have responsibilities, not just to ourselves, but if we have families and whatnot. So, but
there's a time and a place for that, though. But more or less,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I can say that price, and I already mentioned it here on this channel about the barrel aged beers, but I can certainly tell you from my personal for some of my grievances, if you will, I guess price is a big one, because again, being from New England, where I'm from, and you can get these crazy juicy IPA hop bombs. You end up getting like a 4-pack of 16-ounce cans, and they'll cost you like $18 or $15, $16 for 4 beers. Or if you go and try to get a growler of it filled up, you're going to end up spending like $25, almost upwards, not quite $30, but north of $30 for just a growler of craft beer. Now, I understand that to probably make the kind of beers that these companies probably produce, and even some of these imperial stouts, it can be very costly just on the ingredients alone to brew some of these beers. They're not necessarily the most readily available ingredients, nor are obviously they're Australian hops. So a hop like a Galaxy hop, or what's the one that Foster's uses? The Pride of Ringwood hops. It's not like they just grow them out in Washington State and you can get them for cheap. You gotta. Part of it's an import price, and even if you get import beers, depending what they are, you're going to end up spending a little bit more on that, whereas you can get, you'd rather get like Miller Lite or Miller High Life and spend far less money and almost get the same drinking experience than you would if you bought something like Corona or Modelo Especial, and you're spending just slightly more amount of money for practically the same type of a beer drinking experience.
Right, but you can get Lagunitas, a bomber, for about $5. No other place you can get that for.
Yeah.
All depends on the state you live in.
True.
Yeah.
But more or less, you can spend on a 22-ounce bottle. I think the most I've ever seen a Lagunitas for was $7.99 here.
Yeah, here's one trend that I want to see end is I want to be real specific here, so you listen up. Two of these breweries, Stone Brewing. Why the hell at least in New England? Why the hell are your 6-packs more than $20? That is dumb. And number 2, why are the brewery beers? You know what I'm talking about, the brewery. Why are they so expensive for one bottle of them? It's ridiculous. $15, $16, almost $18 for a bottle of brewery beer.
Speaking of that, Eric, I purchased at the Samuel Adams Brewery when I was out in Boston. Their what was it? Their their ginger stout. What was it? Mary Maker?
Something like that. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was this one was a brewery only release. I got it right in my refrigerator. I'm going to do a review of it here probably in December. I think I paid for that beer was like $15.99.
Wow,
that's high for a Samuel Adams beer.
What's that, Michael?
That seems high for a Samuel Adams beer.
Yeah, and it was right at the brewery as a brewery only release.
Their stuff is usually very competitively priced compared to the other brewers.
Yeah,
particularly versus Yuengling, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, real quick. Speaking of Yuengling, have any of you seen the IPL? Have they stopped selling it? Have they discontinued it or what?
What's that?
The Yuengling Indian Pale Lager.
I guess I don't really notice it. Not that I'm really trying to look for it, but I guess now that you mentioned, I don't really notice it all that often.
Yeah, but I kind of agree with what Eric is saying here, and this goes for if any real kind of brewery is watching or any comes across this, at least that's far into the video. I kind of agree with you, Eric. Why are we spending, like you say, like $13, $15, $17, $20 on bomber bottles? Does it really cost that much? The bottle and the beer that you put it in to justify that price point?
Eric, $3.99 for this bottle right here. $3.99. That's too much.
Are we looking at it as people that want this beer, so they're willing to pay I'm going to use quote premium price for this beer? They want to experience that taste.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying
that's what it's about. The experience, the feel, what it's like, you know.
But bomber bottles are, excuse my language, but I'm going to say it's a fucking ripoff.
I agree with that. I was going to say these were available. I told Eric before for $20 a 6-pack. So when you actually figure them out, they're 12 ounces. That's like $3.33 a can. That's almost as much as John paid. But this was like a one-time release thing. So I think they charge more money for that than they would have for something they were selling as part of their regular stuff they sell. Yeah. The 6 point generally is not that high, but I guess on a one-time release they try to make more money.
Yeah, I just don't really see the justification for that, but being a price beer to price it maybe double or even triple what it be for a 12 ounce. I mean, does it really justify for the packaging and the bottle and the labeling and all that to justify that price? No way.
That's the good thing about that reminds me here. That's the really good thing about craft beer is because it's about what we all like to do in the craft beer, and even Michael Kormaroff enjoying the beer and joining the community when he does, is that it's all very subjective. None of this that we're talking about has any actual real answers to them. This is us talking about what we think and just having a fun general discussion about it. So and I know I'm gonna name a name. Usually I'll protect the innocent, Law and Order or People's Court or whatever it's effing called. But Jordan, Pepe, whatever his name is, reviewing Under the Influence. He came down in May and we saw Metallica together in Boston or in Foxborough, Gillette Stadium. That was pretty cool. We got him all good beers like he likes. But he will be the kind of a guy that will just go and buy brewery beer after brewery beer, which is BRUERY from the San Diego area. Brewery beer after brewery beer after brewery beer, and not even think about the price that he's paying because he likes it so much, and that's really, ultimately what it really matters. What it really matters to a lot of folks in craft beer. It doesn't really, the price almost isn't a factor to them. But I kind of think about all of this where, yeah, sure, every now and then it's good to splurge and try things. Don't get me wrong on that, but I like a good value when it comes to beer. If I'm getting if I feel like the price is very indicative of what I'm getting out of the bottle, then sure. If I'm getting, let's say, Steel Reserve 211, the 8.1%. If I'm spending $2 and change for pardon my French, for a shitty malt liquor beer, well, what else am I to expect for $2 for my 40 ounce of beer? For God's sakes, I can't be expecting Bourbon County Stout quality. It's kind of a beer. I can't be expecting a Cantillon. I can't be expecting the ginger lager you bought from the ginger beer you bought from Sam Adams. The price has to be a little bit indicative to quality to a certain extent. If I'm buying a $14 bottle of beer, it better not taste as heinous as I don't know, name tag lager from Trader Joe's or something, right? That would just be weird if it was terrible and you feel like you
or from Costco Costco. Kirkland's.
Rockdale.
Is Kirkland's really that bad?
The Kirkland's Signature Light, yes, very bad.
All right, well,
I don't think
the other beers I haven't tried yet from Kirkland's. They're IPA, and I know in my area they sell it, which is now a couple of years later compared to other cities, that have Costco. We're getting it here finally in Alabama.
John,
I don't need to go on about my discussion about Alabama when it comes to beers and stuff getting here in the state. But
I've tried the
Kirkland. It is something that I may look into, possibly review down the road.
We got Michael Komarov.
Not rushing to buy it.
John,
Michael Komarov and his thoughts on Kirkland beers. Go ahead, Michael.
John, go to your local Costco and pick up a case. Here it's $20 for a case, 24 bottles.
That doesn't seem that bad.
And there's 4 different varieties. There's an IPA, a pale ale, and then 2 specialty things. And those things change. They can be a porter. They can be just other things, I guess, that they're making at the time. And it's worth the $20, but it's not worth more than that. So what I'm trying to say is you're going to rate them and you're going to say, this is really not craft beer.
Yeah,
it's
the other thing,
the other thing that kind of craft beer.
The other thing, you bring up this interesting point. The other thing, that is a barrel-aged nothing. All right.
It's a barrel-aged lager.
Is that really Coors Light you're drinking, Eric?
Or Miller Lite?
No.
It's really Coors Light.
And I'm drinking Bourbon County. Yeah, free America right there, baby.
That just shows the range. That's the range we have.
Hey, man, that beer is like going to go down and be smooth and so refreshing.
But it's refreshing, though, right?
Oh, here's a beer. Oh, speaking of refreshment, before I get to what I was going to say, here's a thing in beer reviewing that needs to end. What does your beer taste like? What's the beer flavor? Refreshing. That is not a beer flavor. I'm sorry.
And you really should not even bring that up in a beer review if you can help it, because it's just not descriptive enough as a term.
What I will say about refreshing and refreshment is I will add that to the mouthfeel and to the quality.
Yeah,
a beer can be crisp, it can be clean, it can have a refreshing quality to it, right. But a quality is not a flavor. They can kind of be 2 separate things.
That's or easy drinking I don't like either.
Yeah. Anyways, you were talking about these Kirkland beers and that you wouldn't spend any more than $20. And I think that's what reminded me of. There are a lot of these brands, maybe they're more of like the Blue Moons of the world or the Shock Tops or I don't want to say Sam Adams, but maybe some of the Goose Island beers where they're like, I say, quote, pseudo craft beers, where they're kind of trying to ride the wave of the beer, of craft beer popularity, and they're trying to put out these craftier style of beers, but they don't even hit the mark, and they're not even anything like they tried to describe them to be at all. But as long as they're low enough price in the market, like again, like a Leinenkugel beer, or you can get a variety pack of these Blue Moon beers. If it's not that pricey, like $10 or maybe $11 at the absolute goddamn most for a variety 12 pack of Blue Moons, that might not be such a bad price. But if you're spending $13, $14, $15 on a variety pack of crafty beer styles from Blue Moon, I think that's a terrible price to pay.
This is what I'm drinking after we get the Kentucky bourbon.
That's a good product, the Genesee Cream Ale.
Yes, it is. And $8.99 for a 12 pack. Goodbye.
Good
All right.
Eric, before you move on, I will say this. Now, I don't know if you guys seen my review on the Busch Repeal Reserve, the Amber Lager.
Not yet.
I have not seen it.
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, finish. I said I haven't seen it yet.
It's actually on my other channel. It's Eric's Beer Reviews. I don't know if you guys are subscribed to that. That's what I could try to separate the sports. I tried to separate the sports and the beer reviews, but anyway, I'm going on with that. Budweiser actually brewed a Amber Lager, which pretty much everybody knows about. I mean, it's been on television, and most people have had it. It's had pretty good. It's been pretty positive in the overall beer community. But along with that, I'm hoping that Budweiser or Anheuser-Busch and hopefully even Miller and Coors, those two brewing companies, has a, and I don't know if they actually do or not, but has like a craft beer kind of division where they can experiment and do some of this other stuff, because that Amber Lager was good, and I also thought the Busch Signature Copper Lager was good, but both of those they're extremely light, but they were good. They were good. I mean, like, have it all for like a 3-month period or a 2-month period or maybe a holiday special kind of thing, or however they want to promote it. But I hope we're seeing maybe from the big macro companies a craft beer division of those bigger macro style companies that can bring maybe more craft beer to the marketplace under a Budweiser or a Busch or a Miller name.
Under that name, you're saying.
But I hope that, but I think there's too many people that get caught up in the macro craft beer stuff that they're just not going to consider it at all.
Yeah, I was just curious when you were saying that. So
but I don't know if they actually have those craft beer divisions.
So you would for me that's the way that I would think about it. But would you seem to think that these macro, as you put them, companies should have an entirely different division and an entirely different brew staff that is devoted to just that division of the brewing process?
Well, they can even use like the Amber Lager that Repeal. They can have Budweiser on it. They can have Miller. They can have Coors. They can have those namesakes on them, and they can. I know they can produce the beer. We know they can because they've done it before. And usually the stuff they put out has been usually. I mean, for me being an American Adjunct Lager drinker, I thought they weren't the best, but they were actually okay. It's just that I think that people, I know they can do it. It's just that the namesake, like the Coors or Miller, sorry, my phone's buzzing here, but the Coors and the Miller and the Budweiser or Anheuser-Busch or Pabst or whoever, we know they can make good beers. It's just a matter of having that division and let them have the freedom to do what they want.
But do you think that for these, maybe maybe some of us are just a little biased because it's like craft beer bust for some of these people, not for a lot of us here.
I don't subscribe to that, Eric. That's total horseshit.
But do you think, and that's good because that's where I subscribe. But do you think that there are a lot of people that are just turned off in the craft beer community to macros? For one of the reasons you think that they're turned off is because instead of trying to do some of these things that you mentioned, they just decide to incorporate and to purchase these craft breweries so that they have their names and their beers in their portfolio, so they don't have to go ahead and try to make these beers themselves. Whereas they get to have part of the craft beer community within their portfolio, they don't have to go and try to catch up all on their own.
Well, that you bring up a good point there, but I don't necessarily think that it's that they have it, in their portfolio or anything like that. I think they've kind of went to, and I'm just going to point out just a few, like Founders and just recently Avery and Stone and whoever else. They've given them this money to distribute their beers on a far, far more regional, maybe even a national, sometimes even international level, for more people to try their beers, and maybe more people will like them, and to bring more cash in and all that. That's really all it is. It's not like Anheuser-Busch is going to put in like a Budweiser, have some craft brewery brew a beer for them and have them put Budweiser on it.
Right.
We've never even seen that yet.
No.
I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to think about that, but there's some people out there that kind of think that, Anheuser-Busch bought craft brewery XYZ. Oh my God, I'm not going to drink that anymore. Which one person that we all know does that, and he's, has a hard on for that sort of stuff. But to me, it's like, that's so much BS and crap I don't even care about. If the beer's good, drink it. Who cares whose name's on it, really?
Yeah.
It's just people get too wrapped up in this macro craft crap.
John,
sorry, I'm going to get off my soapbox now, Eric.
John, are you with us? What's your thoughts?
Yes. I'm sorry.
How's that lager beer?
Which one is that? The Amber Ale from Budweiser or the Genesee I'm drinking?
The Genesee you're drinking.
Of course, Genesee is great. What's wrong with Genesee?
What's your thoughts?
Everybody loves Genesee.
What's your thoughts on Eric Lyons' topic of discussion?
Everybody's going to have their opinions about different things, about these styles of beers, whether you like them or not. The bourbon barrel age to the Amber Ale by Budweiser, which, by the way, I don't care what people say. I think that's probably one of the best decisions they ever did. I wish this beer will continue past the holidays, but I doubt they'll do that. So.
Doesn't look like it.
And all this talk that it tastes just like Busch Signature Lager is complete bull. There's no resemblance with that beer whatsoever.
No, there's not. There's not. I was just mentioning that, John, because that was another good beer that Anheuser-Busch made that kind of
no advertising, none.
Yeah.
Okay, I can make my point. I am not a macro person, but I'm not down on people drinking macro beer. Drink it until you drop. Do whatever you like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not into it because I'm 66 and I'm past the point of macro. I've done it and I'm past. I'm into craft now, and I'm not buying it because it's macro. I just don't get into the taste anymore. I don't drink lagers and pilsners even if they're made by craft brewers. I just don't.
You just don't like that style, then.
That was bad.
You're mad about beer. FPMC.
No, the only point I'm trying to make is do what you want. I'm not down on it. I'm also not somebody who's going to dump on InBev for acquiring people. Do it. Acquire as many of these craft beer as you want. More are going to sprout up and take the spot where it was before. We don't care. Take them all over. We don't care. I don't not buy the ones that they take over. If I like the beer, I buy it. If I don't, I don't. If I have to choose, though, between one that was acquired and one that's a real craft that didn't get the money, if they're equal, I will go with the one that's not them. That's my method of choosing between the two. Or if the InBev is more expensive, I definitely won't buy it.
Sure.
Right. Price actually comes into consideration. Michael, have you tried the Amber by Budweiser? The Amber.
I like it. Actually, but see, an Amber I can take. Those aren't like macros in the true sense because the Amber has a little bit more taste. I guess when I say straight Bud, which is a straight lager, that is not interesting enough.
I just don't like that style.
I don't like the style, and I don't like it even when craft beer people do it. They try lagers. I don't drink theirs either. I just don't like it. It's not interesting enough. I'm an IPA guy who has, now that I've seen what some of these imperial stouts and barrel-aged stuff, they blow my mind. I just can't believe how much depth some of them have. But I'm still an IPA person at heart. That's my core.
Let us know here. I don't even remember how many beans you're drinking, but however many beans you're drinking, what is your final assessment on that beer?
Okay, I would say it's a strong plus, and I rated it 8.5% on my 10-point scale. So I thought it was very good.
Nice.
I do give the general ones like you're drinking, the Goose Island Bourbon Counties are in the 9s for me. They're in the 9 range. I like them better. And the reason is a stout that's brewed like that is a stronger tasting addition of what this is. This porter at 11.2 is extremely good, but it almost doesn't have the mouthfeel that the stouts have. It's not as, I like that stronger mouthfeel that the Bourbon County has. So that's where the extra point comes in.
Excellent.
I would like to have tried the 2014. Like I told you before, I didn't start buying them until 3 years ago. You know, the 2015, and of course,
Right.
and then of course we had our little debacle last year when they had their recall because they were, you know, had problems with souring, and now they sterilized them with pasteurization.
I'm lucky that I never bought the.
That was my hesitation about buying this Kentucky bourbon. I was like, I don't know, but
What are your thoughts on it? How would you rate it at the end of the day on the TV Rambler rating scale?
Yeah, the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale, I think, is a very good. I give this thing a minus for me on this one. Not something I get a lot, but an A minus because of the flavor. When it goes down easy, is not overly, you know, boozy. 8.2%. You know, that's pretty good.
Somewhat drinkable.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Eric, we want your rating on Coors Light.
Yeah.
10.
Okay.
In the category or beer overall?
Well, I've had the Kentucky, or not the Kentucky bourbon. I've had the Bourbon County Stout before. That beer, I haven't came across another stout that even touches that. Even KBS doesn't even touch it.
I agree.
To me.
I agree.
Now other people may say, Eric, you're full of shit.
Yeah, I don't agree, but that's just me.
Yeah, to me, it's like that there hasn't been another stout that even compares to that yet. That's my top of the line, world class stout. And KBS is right there with it, but there's just enough of a difference to just leapfrog it.
Well, I guess the only thing I could say to you that you could try, Avery, and they're really expensive, makes some of these limited series stuff, and they're really expensive, but they're up in the same area. Like you get a 12-ounce bottle of some of their stuff, $16.99.
That's why I don't buy it.
$17.99. But they only brew a couple of thousand bottles of it, and they make a lot of money on it.
And then John goes and gets Genesee Cream Ale, 30 of them for $15.
Well, it's a different product, but
different altogether. You can't even compare the two. Yeah,
but it's good for what you're getting. Genesee Cream Ale is a nice product. I drink that. I like that. It's good. I'm gonna behave tonight. I'm going to bed early. Okay, well, that's good.
So, as my buddy Dave would say, let's get down to brass tacks. Bottom dollar. Bottom line, bottom dollar. The Nacho beer. This is my beer review. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, yeah, he's the Nacho guy, if you didn't know. So, Bourbon Counties, or Goose Island Beer Company's 2014 Bourbon County Brand Coffee Stout. Again, brewed, stout aged in bourbon barrels with coffee added, which is the Chicago area roaster Intelligentsia. It's their cold brew Rwandan coffee. It is 12.6%. And I am going to, and I believe I did rate it once on my channel, but being live and being in the now, I would not say, not that I dislike it because I buy Bourbon County Stouts every year and I do some aging. It's not my favorite line of stouts known to mankind. I find that the stouts, and maybe that's more of the audience's personal preference when it comes to imperial stouts and barrel-aged beers. But I find that the boozy character and the sweet notes are just a little bit overpowering for my personal palate. But the more that it warms, even though, well, it was in the refrigerator for a little bit after I took it out of 55, 60 degree cellar. So it did warm up a little bit. And at the point right now where I'm going to rate it, it has more of the coffee notes, more of the alcohol notes to it, more mouthfeel and viscosity and warming sensations to it. So in those regards, yeah, you got everything you want in Imperial Stout. Again, just too boozy, a little bit too boozy, but not too bad, and a little bit too sweet for my liking. I would probably, I got to give it my standard B+ rating, like maybe like an 88 for what it is. I do think that the KBS, the Kentucky Bourbon Stout from Founders, is a better stout for me, and I actually think that just plain old Imperial Stout from Founders is a better beer for me. I find that it's not quite as boozy, it's not quite as sweet as those, and I find that there are a lot more notes I can pick up on those beers, and I find that the drinking experience is just a little bit easier to drink of a beer, but there's nothing wrong with just taking a beer like this. Even though I gave an 88, still good rating. I'm not trying to diss the beer, but it's a beer you have to sit with and be patient with and sip and contemplate.
What about the Lagunitas Imperial Stout that Eric mentioned, which you can get for $4.99?
I can't get that beer here in my state for whatever the reason. That was a good stout.
No, I've never tried that.
If you can get a hold of that, you should get it. It's always bargain priced.
I don't know. Yeah, it's bargain. It's good and it's bargain priced.
I might have had the cappuccino stout once. I don't even remember that.
Another thing to look for. I don't know if you get this or not, and all three of you can answer. Do you get any of the Evil Twin stuff?
Yeah, it's a little bit. Not their whole line, but maybe 3 or 4 of them.
Because what's happening now is they seem to now be expanding into these 16-ounce cans, and it's spreading out all over New York. Now, that's not Michigan. That's not Massachusetts. But you can get sometimes, and I love this when I can get it, a 16-ounce can of an Imperial Stout, 12 or 13% for $2.50. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a bargain, and it's high quality.
I wish I could get that for $2.50. I think here the 16-ounce cans are $10.
Okay, so obviously Evil Twin in the Northeast is more competitively priced.
I feel like the same thing as Eric and Lion saying, but in this whole, I guess barrel-aged beers really, just by their definition, just look at the term barrel-aged.
They're just more expensive because you have to spend more time on them.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is just take the definition for what it is. It's a beer that's aged in a barrel. Nothing necessarily says in that particular description, although you think of it that way 9 times out of 10, right? Nothing in that description says this beer must be a high alcohol percentage beer. Nor does any of this say that it had to have been the beer had to have been aged in a used barrel of wine or whiskey or any kind of spirit.
Rum or gin.
You just don't know.
A gin barreled beer. Now that would be interesting. Maybe
that would be interesting. I would like to try a gin barreled beer.
A sour gin aged beer. Well, there you go. But yeah, I seem to find, and again, I mention this style way too often because I like it and I'm in my area and Juicy Hot Bombs. But to me, a higher ABV IPA is just way easier to drink than any Imperial Stout ever will be.
That's
when it comes to ABV.
That's true.
I'm with you. Eric and John, and I already know the Eric from Massachusetts Beer Reviews is thinking about this. Are any of you into doing a tasting of a Belgian beer, a Belgian style beer? Because that was what we were talking about as a possible topic. Because it's wide ranging and it doesn't have to be Belgian. It can just be Belgian style from the United States. There's plenty of them.
There's plenty. Yes, plenty.
We could do that next week if y'all want to do that.
I'm up for it.
All right. Well, that could be a cool topic next week, and we'll definitely be in contact for everything about that. Before we go,
I would like to know what Backwoods says about the Bombers.
Yeah, well, Backwoods, I was going to read some of your comments there, Backwoods Billy. I think he's the only one that's watching right now, so and thank you.
We're proud of him.
Yeah, he's good. You should join us next week, Belgian style or Belgian. He says, he says a shot top Belgian white. No, please. He says, yeah, Genesee is $11 a 30 pack, and Hams is 24 packs of 12-ounce cans for $7 on sale. Well, that's a good price. He says, I like all beer styles. I just love more than others. Macro style for sessionable economic drinks. Craft beers sipping.
Look, Eric, I can relate to those feelings. It's just like I say, I'm 66. How many years do I have left? I want it all to be the heavy stuff.
Don't think like that, Michael.
He also says here just now, he says craft beer reviews typically too much. Maybe they're just too pricey. They review craft beer all the time.
I would like to know his thoughts on those bomber bottles and their pricing. What does he think about that?
Can you ask him a question, Eric? Or talk to him and ask him? Backwoods, what do you think of the pricing of bombers?
I think they're fucking expensive.
Also,
they can be.
The other ones you didn't mention the 25.5 ounce ones, which aren't bombers. They're a little bit bigger with the cork tops, you know, the champagne tops. Those tend to be very expensive.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I really like the Allagash Brewing Company beers. And
how about Amagon? Do you like them too?
Yeah, Omegang. I was going to say that Allagash is those cork and cage bottles are stupid expensive. They're always over $20. And Omegang is a little bit cheaper.
Amagon you can get for $8.99. A lot of them.
Yeah, he said. Backwoods Billy said. Yeah, he just said in general. It doesn't even matter if it's a bomb or a beer or not. He's saying in general that it's just too much.
Craft is too expensive.
Yeah,
I could see where craft is getting expensive. Yes,
but we're going. I think what we're going to do here is because we got so off topic because we were getting so wrapped up into craft beer. We're going to do a J Terrio overtime, not live. So we're going to wrap this up and we're going to go overtime. And if Backwoods Billy wants to join us, I'll give you the link and you can join us overtime off air. So I am Thomas Metal 75. I appreciate you watching this Massachusetts Beer Reviews channel YouTube. This was $6.49 I bought it for. The single bottle of bourbon coffee stout. I gave it an 88 out of 100.
Much more than that, but this was one. 333.
And John, explain yourself and your channel.
Yes, the name is Jean H. Pierre. Jeanh Pierre Pierre. You can see my videos on YouTube and also upload videos on different beer groups on Facebook. The latest beer review I did was the Mosaic Promise single hop ale by Founders, and that's on right now.
I've had that on tap. I like it.
Yeah, see, you know what? I can't get any of those Founders beers on tap in my area, so
we have to get
mostly all the local stuff.
Yeah.
But nothing from Founders. You know, they'll have Founders beers in bottles, and I'm like, all right, whatever. So
explain yourself, Michigan native.
It's Eric Lions fan, Eric.
All right. And where can we view your channel?
I got 2 channels. If you guys are into the sports part, go to subscribe to Eric Lions fan. I got to put up a video since I came back from the East Coast, but that's the sports channel where talk about Detroit Lions, Detroit Tigers, Michigan State, football, basketball. Maybe I might get into a little bit of Detroit Pistons stuff, even though they're actually doing quite well this year.
They beat the Celtics recently.
I know. I'm surprised.
Stan Van Gundy. Gundy.
So that's the Eric Lions fan channel. And if you guys want to watch my beer reviews that I do, it's Eric's Beer Reviews. ERIC''S.
All right. We have finished at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I appreciate you watching the video. And until next time, as I always say, keep tasting those great beers. Cheers.
Hope you guys enjoy this video, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
And do all those things. Yeah.
Always.